There's been this conditioning that you've had to do as a father, the where now it's like, okay, Dad, I got it.
Yeah.
But wait. But I'm so wired
Yes.
at this point to continue to no, you need to do it this way. And I think a lot of dads struggle with kind of pulling back.
I know, Myron, you had talked about both of you just ask more questions instead of telling at this point.
Yeah.
But how do you all navigate between pushing when you know they need to be pushed because they have not reached their full potential, versus kind of letting them, they're making their decisions, they're getting by, they're doing good, but you're like, no, I see major potential in them, and I know they can do it because I know them and I know what they're capable of. How do you manage that tension there? Because I think a lot of dads do.
Yeah, I think it's a couple things, right? So one is, as we talk about asking more questions, the goal behind that is to start allowing them to start working that decision making muscle, and so we create space for that, right? And so there's, I think, talk about the seeing the potential. I think what we have to also realize, and we kind of talked about this, I think, in one of the earlier episodes of the Fathering Well, is that everybody doesn't move at the same pace.
Right.
So just because Osei's son at 13 is doing X, Y, and Z, that doesn't mean that I should put the expectation on my son Liam.
Right.
Say, hey, Samaj is doing this, so you should. The comparison, like you talked about, right? You got to be very careful with that, dads, to not say, hey, well, your friend is X, Y, and Z, or he's doing this and that, because that is not, and we're going to talk about this next point we'll get to, but that's not speaking life into your son.
Right.
If you're comparing him, and in your comparison, it's putting him down and putting another kid up, right? So that's
Well,
something.
it could be even both kids in the household.
Yeah.
You could be comparing against each other.
Against the siblings, absolutely.
Sibling.
So we just got to be careful with that comparison. So I think that's one of the things. And then, as Osei talked about, as you are around your son, as you study your son, and you get to know them, where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, I think that's how you start figuring out how to push and how to pull.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have moments of frustration, right?
Yeah,
because it's you're
that's
like,
inevitable.
Man, I'm tired of pushing. Will you pull back, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that happens.
Yes.
Like, we see that a lot, especially around sports. Like you and I, we had that conversation a lot, where we know, hey, practice is going to make you better in your craft. Not playing the video game for a couple hours on Saturday. Make sure you get some time in on your craft as well, because come next week when you have your game on Saturday, if you don't do well, I know how you're going to feel. So I'm thinking about that. I need you to start also making that connection, right? So it's that. I think that's where we're pushing a little bit.
Yeah.
And then I think the pull kind of is either responsibility, or it's allowing a little bit more freedoms. And so it's okay. All right. He has trash duty. Okay. It's getting high. I want to just go ahead and do it, because it's really high. It's almost overflowing, but you're giving him that freedom and that space to recognize, hey, trash is overflowing. I need to take care of it. But if it's every time, I'm just going to go ahead and do it myself. He'll never do it. I'm just going to do it myself. If that's the approach that you're taking, he's never going to do it.
That's right.
Because he knows Dad got his back.
Dad
He's got
just
to
do it for me.
pick up the slack. I think for us,
And it doesn't, and I'm sorry, just to add to that,
sure,
not just that Dad will pick up the slack, but it doesn't get that hand in his back
Right.
to do it.
Come on,
Right?
Yeah.
you need to put the hand in
The
the
hand
back.
in the back needs to be there.
It
And not
does.
necessarily
It's more
you
of a
saying, hey, you need to go get
Right.
the... and not even you need to go get the trash, right? But it's just him recognizing,
Right.
Man, that thing stink. Let me take that out.
Mm-hmm.
Love to see that.
Right.
Yeah.
Watching him doing things around the house
Yep.
that you don't have to tell him to do that.
Right.
Love to see that.
Mm-hmm.
That's him starting to kind of spread himself a little bit more And again, going back to the decision making, when it comes to things with school, when you have electives, you got to pick. I think we said, okay, you got to have 3. All right, you pick 2, we pick 1, or we pick 2, you pick 1. Right. So now it's the sharing of those responsibilities, and whatever you pick, oh, I don't like it. Hey, you picked it.
Yeah.
You got to rough it out the next semester.
You do.
Right. Yeah.
One of the things that helped us and helped them determine their potential or meeting their potential at that point is that we actually helped them set goals.
Yeah.
Okay.
For themselves.
Yep.
Right. And we would walk through those goals with them for the year. So we have what we call the Family Goal Planning Guide and Workbook. And there's 6 core areas that we help them make decisions in, which are faith, family, finance, fitness, future, and fun. And every year we would go through and say, okay, what are your goals in these areas?
Yeah.
And every month we would sit down with them and say, where are you? And when we're setting the goals, we're like, so what are the activities that need to happen so that you can meet those goals? Yeah. So when we're talking about their future, we're talking about their education, walking through, so what are those classes you're going to take? What are the grades that you're going to strive to get?
Yep.
What are you going to have to put in place to make sure that you are actually meeting or exceeding those goals?
Right.
And that helps them to determine, okay, now I'm making these decisions and I'm owning.
There you go.
My goals.
That's the word.
I'm owning it now.
Right.
So it's not Dad telling me,
but
I'm setting these goals. We're going around them. And so I'm just asking the questions. I'm not telling, I'm asking the questions so they'll know how to set their goals at the appropriate mark.
I think that's actually what helped Samaj and I is the family goal planning.
Oh.
So we went through different phases of his life that were pretty critical in that stage of coaching, right? We had a conversation. We would go to the coffee shop every week. We would sit down and we would go over those same goals weekly.
Consistency, baby.
After some time, of course, he would get a little frustrated, but he understood the purpose. He understood the purpose of why we were doing what we were doing. And so, to answer your question, there were moments where I had to kind of put that hand in his back a little bit, and allow him to see that this is a difficult process. It can be a bit frustrating. You want to slow up a little bit. You want to get a bit comfortable, but this is not the time to do that.
Yeah.
This phase that you're in right now is extremely critical. Like you said, it's going to determine the trajectory of where you're going. So every now, Maj, come get this trash, man. And he has to do it.
It's always the trash.
It's always a trash. Or getting your clothes out of the dryer.
Room,
or the room too.
That room.
You know what I'm saying? It's not to embarrass my son. He knows what time it is. But right. But every now and again, yes, there has to be that, because that's part of that discipline piece that he's going to hold on to for probably his entire life. He's going to hear Dad's voice which then eventually we hope will be the Holy Spirit.
Yes.
And moving into his adulthood years.
And I think these things are so critical because, again, we're talking about allowing them to make their own decisions, right? Giving less answers, asking more questions. So when they say, hey, Dad, I want to get a job. Okay. How are your grades looking?
Yeah.
If you get a job, how is that going to tie into your athletics? Oh, I'm going to do it during the summer, during my off season. Okay, cool. Hey, Dad, now that I got the job, okay. So I'm not going to be like, you need to get ready to go to work. So what's your schedule this week? Say it. What's your schedule this week? Oh, okay. Come Thursday, got to be to work at 4 o'clock, and it's 2 o'clock, and you sitting in the room gaming.
You said 2 o'clock. I'm thinking 3:45.
I'm just peeking my head in at 2 o'clock, like, oh, still gaming. 3 o'clock, still gaming. 3:30, still gaming. And maybe 1 or 2 occurrences where, hey, you were late. And then we have a conversation. But not you need to get up, get ready for work. You need to get ready. No.
Right.
Dad, why you ain't tell me? Because my work schedule, it ain't changed. I know what time I got to be there. 7 o'clock. off at 3:45, 4 o'clock if I'm, got some calls, right? So I know what my schedule is,
Right.
and I know what I'm responsible for. And then even with these decisions that they're making, parents and dads, I always know you got veto power. In the coaching stage, you're not on your own. You're still interdependent. So you're depending on us for resources, for things like that. So if you are making a decision and we don't think it's the right decision for you, we can say, hey, you know what, son, I like the way you reason through that. I hear what you're saying, but let's talk about it a little bit more because I don't know if that's going to be the best decision for you. That's your veto power.
Yeah.
But you're still allowing him, again, to work that decision-making muscle. Now, it can't be every time he is doing the decision-making, it's always, I don't agree with your decision.
Right.
Because he ain't getting the bar up then, right? He got to at least he got to get the bar up.
But that's where you have to
like that.
determine allowing them, if we transition,
Let's
allowing
go.
them to make some of those mistakes.
Got to. That's the next point, dads, is
The next point.
let them learn from their mistakes.
Correct.
Right. And in order for them to learn, they have to make them.
They have to make some mistakes. And I believe that what we do is that we can tell them all of the areas that they need to consider when they're making those decisions about that. And then if they say, no, I think I can handle it. It's like, okay, if it's not going to be detrimental, let them handle it.
Yeah.
And then they'll figure out they can't handle it.
Yeah.
They really will.
Mm-hmm.
But it will be that learning muscle
Yes.
that they get. I remember when my son, he had just gotten out of finishing up his photographic associate's degree, all of that, right? And he said, well, I'm going to get 2 jobs. And I said, do you really think that's going to be a good idea to get you 2 jobs, 2 full-time jobs that he's going to work? He said, no, because I can get off at this time, and then I can sleep at this time, and then I can go here, and then I can get back. And then I said, okay, have you considered X, Y, and Z? Yeah, I've done that. Okay, you do that.
Yeah.
And when you say, oh, okay.
Okay. When you go to that soprano voice.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
So that lasted about 6 weeks.
Oh, that long?
That long, and he was like, oh my God. He can't see straight. He forgot which one, because it was alternating schedules.
Yeah.
It was like, am I supposed to be at this job or this job?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I got the wrong outfit, uniform. It was just too much.
Yeah.
Right.
But he learned how to manage his time so much better and knew what he could do in these 2 full-time jobs. So of course he gave up one.
Yeah.
But that was just a great learning opportunity.
And all of that experience would have been wiped off the board.
Yes.
If you had said, no, you're not going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when it comes to allowing them to learn from their mistakes, there's going to come a time where they'll tune our voices out. Dads, they're going to tune you out.
Right.
And that mistake, the sting of it, is going to be a greater lesson than what our voices would be.
Correct.
Right. They're going to remember if it's something with school. Hey, I want to take on a weekend job. Well, how is that going to, score with your grades? Oh, I'm a study and I'm gonna keep it going. Okay. And then they bomb on a test. And now athletics might be in jeopardy. You
No.
They love to play ball.
They do.
So now, because that's in jeopardy, that's a lesson they gonna learn. Like, they gonna be come in that room and like, what's that on the board? That's my schedule. They gonna figure it out.
Right.
They will figure it out when privileges are removed. It may not be maybe boss taking away. Maybe it's, all right, I'm gonna need that phone. But Dad, I need my phone for work. Nah, or for sports. And I tell my son all the time, you are a student athlete.
Right.
Which one comes first?
The student.
You did your homework?
Uh-huh.
We're not leaving for practice because you ain't done with your homework, right?
All right.
He in conducting stage. That's why I can tell you that, right?
When Cameron, my oldest, he was in the coaching stage. He was in high school, student athlete.
Yeah.
And he came home and he was picking classes. And he said, well, Dad, I'm going to actually take this class. It was like AP calculus or something like that. It was like that next level.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, son, I'm going to let you know. Daddy can't help you with that.
Yeah.
So if you're going to take this class,
Yeah.
what are we going to do to make sure you're successful? Because you can't come to me for that.
Yes.
Right.
So not that he couldn't do it, but I just knew, what can we do to make sure that we're surrounding him
Yeah.
so that he can be successful in that class? So immediately we're like, okay, let's just get tutoring in advance, just so that he's ready to go. Let's make sure that you've allocated enough time
There you go.
so that you can study and make sure that you get all the exercise.
Yeah.
And then the last thing, let's make sure that you can, have you considered establishing that relationship with your instructor, your
Right.
teacher?
Right.
So have you looked at all those? And he was successful at doing it,
Yeah.
but we just try to build that success model around him during that time, because Daddy couldn't help him
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
in that.
And
I really couldn't.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think we've all had kind of similar situations where we've had to let our sons just make the mistakes,
Yeah.
or
Seriously.
kind of guide them through what it would look like. Samaj, similar situation where we allowed him to kind of explore doing home, more like hybrid, right? So he would
Yeah.
do some classes online, and then he would have to go into school for some classes. So we allowed him to do that for a semester just to see how things would pan out. And initially, like I said, we sat down, we had the conversations, we, all the brainstorming, planning, and all of that,
Yeah.
And then after a while, it was like, okay, we got it. You're on your own now. You're in the driver's seat.
Yep.
You're steering this boat, okay? We're over here. Let us know if you need us. We'll be checking in every now and again. However, you got it, right? We've identified that our son needs structure. like around the clock structure,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yes.
there was a lot of liberty in doing the hybrid,
Yeah.
right? And so when we would check in with them, hey son, looking at the grades, we're on parent view. We see things kind of not where we expected to be. You good? Yeah, I got it. Dad, I got it. I got it. I'm good. Mom, trust me. And the end of the semester, we were like, no, this is not it.
Yeah.
We got to go back to what we know.
Power.
Veto power.
Yes.
We had to go back to
Yes.
what we knew worked. And I think for us as parents, my wife and I identified that he does better under structure.
Yeah.
So even though now he has to wake up at probably 5:15 in the morning to get on the bus, he's up before the whole house. He does it consistently.
Yeah.
That's his strength. He works well under structure.
Good.
And so we've identified that, and
You
we
said
supported
5:15
that.
in the morning?
Yes, sir.
Every morning?
Every morning
He gets up?
He's on point.
He's on it.
Every now and again he'll miss,
Oh.
and it's all good. That's when we talked about before.
Yeah.
We can kind of like grant some grace,
Yes.
because
The
you
decision-making.
demonstrated,
Yes.
after some time,
Yeah.
that you can exercise responsibility. So
Absolutely.
we're not going to get so, tied up and worked up, because you made this one mistake.
Yeah.
But we're going to grant some grace.
That's
You're
good.
good. We see what you're doing, right? So yeah, I think we've all kind of
Yeah.
experienced that with our son.
5:15 in the morning?
5:15. Salute to my son. Boy, seriously. Listen, fellas, we've been enjoying our conversation on the coaching stage, and hopefully you have been as well. If so, make sure you drop a comment and share with us your experiences as a father in the coaching stage, good, challenging, or indifferent. Stay tuned for next week's episode, where we wrap up the coaching stage and discuss ways that we can create bonding opportunities and healthy moments with our sons. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on all social media platforms, and like us on Facebook. And as always, make sure you go out and encourage another brother.